Commissioner Price,
Here.
Commissioner Andrews,
Here.
Commissioner Douther,
Here.
Everyone's going through a learning curve tonight. The chair will receive a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do we do a roll call on this? Okay. Clara, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Andrews,
Here.
Commissioner Hodges, Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Commissioner Douther,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes. There are no proclamation presentation tonight. We'll move on to public comment.
There's a stay-at-home order to the effect, and the public should follow that order and practice social.
No, it's Middleton. Bad dog.
Again.
Go lay down. Go.
Once again, I can't hear a thing. Bob, you're on mute if you're speaking.
Okay, how about now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Can hear you now.
Due to the current state of emergency as declared from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, there's a stay-at-home order, and public should follow that order and practice social distancing. Therefore, persons wishing to comment on an agenda item or any issue have been requested in advance to email their comments to the city. Those comments will be read at this time. Kurt.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I want to add one thing. With respect to the marina amnesty that we were talking about, I know that we voted on that at last meeting to be able to provide them the opportunity to individually present the cases to us. The reason I think this came up today was I was asked about this, but we don't have any documentation at the marina currently for them to apply for the amnesty that we talked about for the rent for the slips. So I don't know whether we have to re-vote on it, because I thought we had it was during a regular meeting and we did vote on it. It was approved, I believe 5-0. So there should be I think we all decided it was going to be a quick one pager, fill it out real quick and be able to process it through the marina. Is that not happening, Bob?
Bob, you're muted.
Okay. Each individual that has a charter boat there or a liveaboard was contacted by the marine staff. And the marina staff, I apologize. There's actually 4. There's 2 charter boats or 2 boats that are docked there, and the 2 liveaboards that I have. And I was going to present it under my report to see if you want to extend that. I just got it today, so we haven't had time to post it for a meeting. But if you want to give me the authority to go ahead and deal with them in a similar manner, or what we've done with the businesses, we can discuss that later, or we can discuss it now. That's totally up to you all.
I guess I'm just a little confused. I thought we had that. We were going to give them a document that the marina was going to have, and they were going to fill them out, and then they were going to come to us, and we were going to make a decision amongst the board whether or not to grant amnesty. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just the way I remember.
No, that is the plan, but I didn't know if you wanted to wait to the next meeting to do that. And that's why I got the information today. This is a summary of what they had for the paperwork at the marina. My assumption is they used the form, and this gave me a summary on it, because I know that's what we talked about. You're correct.
I just unchecked it. Okay.
I would say if we passed it last meeting, we need to forge ahead rather than waiting until the next meeting.
Okay.
So that these folks can go ahead and know what they need to do. I know, for example, Dylan Hubbard is the one that made that comment. I know they have a boat there, and they've also been hit very hard by
His is one of the requests.
Inability, to take their charter boats out and whatnot at John's Pass, and they have another boat over there. So, at the marina. So, I think we ought to move right on ahead with these and get them taken care of.
Well, what I'll do, since we did not post it as part of the meeting, I'll go ahead and take the action and bring it back for you all to ratify it at the next meeting, but this way we can get them some relief.
Okay.
This Commissioner Douther, we voted for liveaboards, not for the charter fishing boats. That would be something completely different.
As I remember, that was for anybody keeping boats at the marina that was running into financial troubles on this.
No, we said liveaboards is what we said.
Was it liveaboards?
Yes, that's what Commissioner Andrews proposed, was liveaboards, not the charter fishing boats.
I believe the commissioner is correct. I think we went through the motion with the businesses.
Excuse me.
I didn't have any from the marina at that time to bring forward to you. And my plan was to present a resolution to you, including anybody between now and then that gave this to us. But as I mentioned, I just got this today. Originally, when they were contacted, nobody had wanted to partake in it. Then we got one call on Monday, and then we got a total of 4 of them today.
Bob, how do you suggest we proceed with this then? Because there are other people than just liveaboards that need some relief.
My suggestion is, I'll go ahead and extend the same type of situation. We have the 1 month amnesty, and I'll bring it back for an official ratification from the commission at our next meeting in May.
Is that okay with everyone?
Perfectly okay with me. I wasn't trying to be specific when I made that. And John, you're probably correct. I don't remember exactly what the motion was, but I didn't want to exclude anybody that needed help. That was the whole idea, was to help the people that need help, not restrict them based on a liveaboard or just. I apologize if I did make incorrect.
Let's do that then.
Okay.
Is there any other comment from the commission on that item? Okay, let's move on to appointment of a vice mayor. Per city charter, section 4.4, the board of commissioners shall appoint a vice mayor at its first regular meeting following the election. Chair will entertain a motion at this time.
Well, I'll make a motion to nominate Commissioner Hodges to be our vice mayor. I can't hear you.
Commissioner Hodges, the normal way it's been in the past is it's going down from commissioner to commissioner to commissioner. So this year it should go to Commissioner Andrews. He would be the next person in line rather than the same person having it 2 years in a row. It's always going, every year it's going to the next commissioner in a rotating form. So my recommendation at this point would be that we pass it to Commissioner Andrews.
I have to admit that the past 2 years, or 1 year being the vice mayor, was great. I really enjoyed it. And I think commissioners would do a very good job. I really do. Thank you.
So do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we go ahead and pass the vice position to Commissioner Doug Andrews.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any more discussion?
Just a note, I'm not necessarily wed to the way things were done in the past. I think the best person for the job, not that Doug is not the best person, Commissioner Andrews is not the best person for the job. I was just trying to honor Commissioner Hodges, since she has been on the commission for as long as she has. And frankly, was not really even aware you were currently the vice mayor. So it was just given to the person who I thought was the most qualified. And there is no requirement that we follow any kind of a designation of who's next and who's next and who's next. I think whoever's best for the job, whoever has the qualifications can do it. And I'm sure Commissioner Andrews has the qualifications.
I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Price. And in fact, a number of years ago, when Commissioner Dother was on the committee, it was stripped of commissioners back then. But I have a second. Is there any more discussion on it? City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews?
No. Yeah, I'm teasing.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Congratulations, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry.
You're drafted. And before we move on, Commissioner Hodges, I want to thank you for your service to the city and for the past few years that you've been vice mayor, or for the past year that you've been vice mayor. Thank you very much. Okay, item 8, consent agenda.
Just real quick, I'd like to add something for you guys. I can see that we have a litany of past meetings on here about December, which honestly is out into our favor. So I'd like to recommend that our recently elected mayor and Commissioner Price take a good look at the consent agenda notes, use them as reference points on where we are right now. Again, knowing you two, I'm sure you've already committed them all to memory, but and I'm sure this isn't on purpose, but I think the meeting notes lay out exactly where we are right now and the topics that we need to either continue to discuss or put to bed in the next few months. So they're good reading. I think we'll talk about it a bit more in depth tomorrow if there's any questions, but I think it is a pretty good wrap up for the last 4 months of what we've been doing. So.
Yeah, well, you've been much more on top of this than I have, Doug, because you've been on the commission and at the meetings. So I will trust you all's judgment, your judgment, and Commissioner Hodges and Commissioner Dother's on this because simply y'all were here at every meeting. I was here at most every meeting, but not every one of them.
The only other thing to bring up is the Johns Pass. I'm sorry, the Crystal Island project. It kind of sickens when I look at the price of this thing and seeing that we had $6.6 million actually budgeted for this, and it looks like, if I'm looking at the numbers correctly, we're talking about over $10.7 million, including the $197,000 that were given to Doolin Associates to the project. Folks, we're not going to be very fiscally responsible if we keep coming in $4 million over budget. There's a lot of things we can do with $4 million, and I think this virus and this pandemic that we're going through is going to show us that we probably could use that $4 million in other spots. But I just wanted to bring it up. I just want to make sure that we're all going into this the right way going forward. Because I think when you look at what we're going to pay out, even after what the county gives back to us, with that in the project done parsley, there goes that $15 million, and that's not even include the balloon payment we're going to have to pay out. So let's just going forward be a little bit more. Have our hands on the purse strings. That's all. Thanks.
And if I could comment, I think you're absolutely right, Commissioner Andrews, and due to what's going on now and the lack of income with the parking and things of that nature, we're gonna have to really tighten our belts and probably make some adjustments to our budget. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So not gonna be a fun task ahead.
You can go outside.
I make a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Okay.
City Clerk, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Commissioner Douther,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
No. Shh. Take the baby out to go potty. Come. Go potty. Come on.
Ordinance number 2019-16, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Article 8, Special Magistrate, to correct grammar and provide more inclusive language throughout. Section 2-501 and E to specify limits on the authority of the special magistrate as relates to licensed and certified decisions. Section 2-503 to expand the radius of notification. Section 2-503D1 to establish cost recovery fee for applicant failure to attend. Section 2-503G, transfer and clerical and administrative support from the Board of Commissioners to the city manager in keeping with professional standards and practice and stating performance standards for the special magistrate. Section 2-506C, specifying the application of land development code and removing the duplicative quasi-judicial review of the local planning agency. Section 2-507B, strengthening the standard for review of variances to ensure full compliance with local standards, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an immediate effective date.
Good evening. This is Linda Portal. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. This ordinance has been before the commission off and on since last June, as a matter of fact, when it had its first reading. And then there were some questions that came up about the Planning Commission support. The intent of the ordinance is to clean up a lot of language in there that's either non-inclusive or was confusing or contradictory throughout the code. And in addition to propose doing away with a duplicative hearing when we have a special exception request, the way the code had been written in the past, it had been amended several times, and I think it was almost inadvertent that it ended up listing the Planning Commission as requiring a hearing, and then also the special magistrate to have a hearing on special exceptions. Those special exceptions are things that are already allowed in the code under certain conditions, so it's pretty laborious to go through two quasi-judicial hearings for something that's listed as potentially approvable in its offset. In addition, it creates a bit of a problem because we get a staff recommendation for either approval or denial with findings. If one board, for instance, the Planning Commission recommends one thing and the special magistrate overturns that recommendation, then we end up with records of findings and support in two different directions, which allows either one or both sides in the controversy to sue the city for a difference of opinion. That, of course, involves a lot of legal costs and legal liability for the city. So it's usually best to have only a single quasi-judicial proceeding on these things. Most special exceptions are going to be very small issues. The special magistrate also hears variances, and both the special exceptions and variances have a notice requirement. And so the final thing that this was dealing with was that in the past, the notice requirement has been for 200 feet out in the radius of 200 feet. And it was thought, or had been discussed by the commission, that that wasn't enough of a distance, enough notice, and that they had suggested going to 300 feet. So when we brought this ordinance through to the Planning Commission, they approved it for the 300-foot expansion from 200 to 300 feet. We came back to the City Commission with that, although the Planning Commission did recommend approval for that, it was questioned whether they had really thoroughly discussed the issue of the potential of expanding that radius out even further to as much as 500 feet. So I was told to take it back to the Planning Commission again. The Commission looked over that issue carefully talked about it in detail. And in fact, some of the members had gone through the exercise of actually measuring it out for themselves to see what the impacts were. And they recommended that a 500-foot radius would be excessive, that we're talking about, for instance, somebody wanting to vary their setback by a foot in the front or a foot in the back, and that a 500-foot radius would involve or create a sense of standing among people who didn't even live on the same island, because that would take in more than one neighborhood, and that was just more notice than was really required for the size of the decisions that the special magistrate is making. So the Planning Commission has now recommended all the approvals as written, and they recommend holding with a 300-foot radius.
Is there any discussion on this with the commission?
Just that I totally agree with keeping it at 300 feet. I know in my neighborhood, we have 40-foot wide lots, and I really don't want to know everything that's going on 12 houses away or across the canal from me. I think that's overkill. I think we're just inviting more drama than we need. I think 300 is more than adequate. I agree with our Planning Commission on that one. Everything else I agree with as well. So that was the only thing I wanted to comment on, was that that radius of notification part.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I think 200 feet is enough, but if everyone agrees with the 300, I'm fine with it. But I felt like 200 was fine the way we had it before.
No, I would like to, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
I was just going to make the motion then to go ahead and pass the ordinance. Excuse me.
I'll second it.
Didn't identify it. Okay. Ordinance 2019-16.
I will second that one.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes.
And just some clarification, it's actually 500 is written in this statute. So we want to pass it with the 300, not as written, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, 500's in there. We want 500 stricken.
Linda, can you make the change on page 95 and Clara from 500 to 300 feet? And bring that back again then for a second reading. It will say 300 feet. Right now it says 500 feet on page 95. That would strike through, and then you put in 300 feet.
Ralph, if they approved it as written, do they need to re-vote? It was approved as written, 500 feet. Do they need to re-vote?
Yeah, I think Commissioner Hodges, maybe if you amended your motion to approve, you'll be a motion to pass on first reading with an amendment to 300 feet on page 95 of the agenda packet. That's in section 2-503C.
Amend your motion.
I'm sorry. Okay, so you want me to redo the ordinance and have it corrected with the 300 feet, correct?
Redo the motion. Yeah, the motion to approve the ordinance with 300 feet notification instead of 500.
Okay, let's see. Let me go back to where it was now. Okay, so it'd be ordinance 2019-16 to be approved with the lots at 300 feet as per ordinance?
With the radius of notification at 300 feet.
with the radius of 300 feet. Okay,
I'll second that.
thank you.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Douther,
Yes.
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is item 9B, RFP for City Attorney, Professional Legal Services. Will the City Clerk please proceed?
This item, it's been to the board a couple of times, and if we're going to proceed with it, well, we went through it because at the last meeting, there were some conflicts that mentioned, but not what they were. So we worked on it and revised it somewhat, made it more simpler and all. We put out the revised one today. So I don't know if everybody had an opportunity to read that, or we can go through the changes.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to look through this?
I have.
Comments?
I think we need to kind of go through and talk about the changes that were made.
Well, if I may respond, Commissioner Douther, you mentioned in the meeting that you thought there was a lot of redundancy in it was like a 31-page request for proposal, which I agree, it was way too long. The city clerk and I sat down and went through word by word, took out all the redundancies, reorganized it. Frankly, it would have probably been easier for me to draft one from scratch, but it was a pretty good template to work from. So we did work from it, and we got 9 pages out of there. I'm certainly prepared right now to run through it and tell everybody what's in it. I just think in the interest of getting this thing out there, since not we, but the city itself has approved this thing in, I believe, December to get going on it. And here we are 4 months later, we're still messing around with it. That there's like 7 headings. They're quite easy to understand if you want to take a look at it. Or like I said, I'm ready to go through it section by section. The city clerk and she looked up several areas that were she thought were legally required to have an RFP, and we left those parts in, and everything else we just simplified. Probably the biggest change we made was there was a very interesting, it was like a split proposal. You had one proposal, and then you had a fee schedule that was done in a different sealed envelope, and we just combined it all into one with all the requirements that were on the original one that had been used by another city recently. So I'm good with it. I still think it's quite long, but in the interest of time and getting it done today so that we could approve something, that's what we did.
One question I have to start with on page 119 of the agenda and page 10 of the one they sent out this afternoon. On that, it says on page 119, it says the second Tuesday, and on the new one, it says Wednesday, and Wednesday. Was this a mistake that we changed that it says Wednesday versus Tuesday?
I actually did that myself because I have a conflict on many Tuesdays, and tomorrow when the commissioners all get together and talk about our rules, I was hoping that we could change the night of our meetings to Wednesday night. And that's the only reason why, as I was going through there, I thought in anticipation of it being okay, that I did change that to Wednesday.
I've got a conflict with Wednesday evenings.
Then this is very easily changed. The dates are left open on this because it's got to be worked on, and So that's fine. I mean, any
Okay.
date could be changed. The dates, we can't fill in all the dates because we don't have an approval on this from the board yet.
Okay, so I think it needs to stay on Tuesdays like it was, is my opinion. Has anyone talked to a law firm and they said Wednesday was better, or I'm just asking because I don't know,
No, I'm just telling you my situation. I was bringing this up
Okay.
tomorrow in our planning meeting, where we're going to be going over the handbook and how we intend to go forward with our meeting.
And should we not, you want to change it tomorrow at the meeting, but should that not go out, should not be the regular meeting when we get back to the point that the residents can attend and get their opinion if it should be Tuesday or Wednesday? That's another thing I thought of when reading this. I just said, whoa, this is, changing everything up. And we haven't taken it to the,
There's no requirement to take it to our citizens about which night is better for them. I can guarantee you there's probably equal people that don't like Tuesday and don't like Wednesday and don't like Friday. So we can hash that out tomorrow. That's our goal. But certainly for purposes of, you're not going to have this proposal with all the exact dates in it because it needs to be approved. And then Clara needs to find out when ads can go out and when notice can go out. Because if you look through there, there's quite a few dates that are left completely open.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes.
Yeah. None of that can be filled in.
Okay.
I would like to say something also. That I think at one time or another, everyone is going to have a problem with a Tuesday or with a Wednesday. Personally, for me, I have things to do on Tuesday normally, but I have put them off. It's something I would not have to put off if we were to move this to a Wednesday. So that's would be my personal preference. But
I guess I look at it from, Mayor, I kind of look at it, and Commissioner Price, I kind of look at it from the point when you guys ran for office, you knew it was on Tuesday, and I set up several years ago my things to move to Wednesday, so that now Wednesday becomes a conflict for me. And you guys knew it was Tuesday when you ran, so.
And we're here.
I know, I'm just saying, to change this to Wednesday, I think is wrong.
Well,
And we can talk about that in the planning meeting tomorrow. That's what the meeting tomorrow is for.
Yeah.
Every new commission comes up and decides how they want their meetings to be run. And my understanding is that's what we're doing tomorrow, so.
Okay. Any other comments?
Chairman, this is Ralph. I just want to point your attention to page 6 on the insurance requirements. Typically, lawyers and law firms will not add their clients to their automobile insurance as an additional insured. That is usually something that doesn't appear in city attorney work. And the workman's comp is typically not something that appears in the city's contracts, but the firm may or may not have to comply with workman's comp. This does say that if you don't have to comply to provide that, the professional and liability insurance is a bit high. Most of the policies you can buy are for 1 million or 2 million. They're typically not 4 million. This might limit the number of firms that you may apply or may qualify. And other than that, it looks fine, but the insurance requirements are a little bit maybe limiting. I'm not sure that the law firms will want to put clients as additional insurers, like I said, and the professional and liability insurance may be a bit high. But you can try it and see what responses you get.
We would certainly want more responses than less, so I would have no problem changing those amounts on the insurance. If you think it's a bit high for your industry, that was kind of on the pattern proposal that we worked with, so I left it. I didn't feel like I wanted to lower that. But if your advice is that it's a little high, then I'm happy to, let's cut it in half and make it 2, if that's more to the industry standard.
Yeah, I don't think you need number 3 and number 4. The law firm's insurance for their offices and things, I don't think you need to worry about number 3. And then number 4, I don't think you need to worry about the automobile insurance either. Those would be things that are covered inside the firm, but not related to the city.
Because my copy of this is actually on the computer, I can't look at the sections you're talking about. But
Oh, I'm sorry, they're the comprehensive commercial general liability insurance. It's like a slip and fall at the law office, that kind of thing. And then automobile insurance, having to put the city on as a co-insured on, your individual attorney's automobile insurance. Those typically are not found in city attorney RFPs. You might see that from other types of contractors, general contractors and things.
well, this is actually an RFP for a different town. So they certainly required it. If the board wants to take it out, we can leave it in. I do want to ensure that the law firm we hire is fully insured.
Okay, then I would just leave everything the way it is.
Well, I don't want to limit ourselves. We're relying on you to give us some advice here. If you think the insurance I'm requiring is that we put in there from the patterned RFP that we chose to work from, if you think it's
not
necessary, I'm happy to take it out.
Yeah, typically the one that they require is the professional liability insurance. And then the other ones aren't required as part of an RFP or a contract.
Hey, if it'll shorten that thing, maybe that's what we ought to do.
Okay, it is
Take
pretty
those sections out and lower the limit to 2 million for the, I can't remember which section
That's section 2, professional liability insurance.
Professional liability, okay. Wow, you think 4 is high for that? 4 million? Okay.
I don't know that it's generally available to get 4 million. Florida Lawyers Mutual Insurance Association only goes up to $1 million. So I think you'd have to probably go to another, maybe private provider to obtain additional coverage.
All right. Are there any other comments?
I've got a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor. They're pretty much housekeeping, but I'm confused on some things. I just don't know why our city clerk had to write this. This was assigned to the city manager's office back on December 10th. And, after reviewing Mr. Douthert's motion that day, it was to get this RFP out ASAP.
Commissioner Andrews, you just muted.
Let me start over. I'm just trying to figure out why the city clerk wrote this, because this was assigned to the city manager's office back on December 10th. Mr. Douthert's motion on that day was to get the RFP out ASAP. But my first question is, if the Board of Commissioners assigned this to the city manager, who then tasked the city clerk with this assignment? Because we're the only people that can, Board of Commissioners are the only people that can task the city clerk. So that's my first question. My second question is, we're 4 months down the road on this. It's 4 months ASAP. It's complete lack of follow through. And judging by the timeline provided in the new document, we're a minimum of a month behind this published schedule. So even with the most optimistic estimates, we're not going to be done with this thing until mid-June. So looking at that, is 6 months for an RFP acceptable to anybody up here when we were supposed to get done that quickly? I think also, given the conversation of the past few minutes and with Commissioner Price's expertise, she's already ripped apart, a lot of this RFP. It looks like a brand new document. So I'm guessing even in the changes that we're discussing, even 6 months is a pipe dream. Look, this isn't personal, okay? But there's numerous big issues with what's been going on here legally, okay? And my goal is not to follow in the footsteps and embarrass anyone. But we have the city at a standstill right now, and with business operations kind of shut down during the coronavirus. We have a 30-day out contract where we have time for a transition when there's not a lot going on. And we already have a meeting scheduled tomorrow where we could discuss an interim solution. So I think it's the right time to make the move now. Okay. Therefore, I make a motion to terminate the contract with Ralph Brooks today, April 14th, 2020, with the 30-day termination clause. It gives us till May 14th of 2020, and that'll give us time to transition an interim city attorney, and then we can take our time getting this RFP out.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear you say that, Commissioner Andrews, and I will second that motion.
We have a second. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Commissioner Doubter,
No.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks,
Yes. Item 10, contract agreements, new business. City manager.
Yes, this is an issue we started dealing with the last meeting where we passed a resolution to FWC to address the speed zone, marine speed zone in the area.
Was it? Okay. The Marines, this was addressed at the last meeting with the resolution to the Florida Wildlife Commission, who regulates the speeds on the waterways throughout the state. The next course of action is doing the ordinance, as I had mentioned at that meeting, and I know two of you weren't privy to it, not being on the commission. But the next step is doing an actual ordinance change. So we go through and we, at their direction, I kind of got feedback from them on what we should be doing in reference to the ordinance. And we already have a manatee speed area that covers Johns Pass. There's a document that comes out from the county with the manatee areas in Pinellas County. And so what was suggested was if we took the manatee areas and just expanded on them to the other waterways that are within our jurisdiction, excluding the channel in John Pass and the channel in the intracoastal waterway, then that would probably have more momentum to get this passed through FWC. So what you have before you is an ordinance that was drafted with Ms. Portel from the community development side, and making those changes that are in front of you. And I just wanted to let you know before Linda speaks that we do have some public comment issues on this. So when the time is appropriate, Mr. Mayor, just let us know and we'll have those read into the record.
Yeah, I would say.
Good evening again.
Go ahead, Ms. Porter.
Okay, thank you. But what I did was just look at the existing ordinance. As you can see, when you look at the ordinance, there are a number of areas that were designated for low speed, no wake areas. And based on the recommendation of the Fish and Wildlife people, instead of listing a whole bunch of separate low wake or no wake areas, we just excluded the Johns Pass and the intercoastal waterways and made the rest of the city waters no wake or low wake areas, except where we have them designated even slower as idle areas, idle no wake areas, which is at the very end. So it actually makes the ordinance a lot simpler to use, and it's a lot more clear cut that when you're in Madeira Beach waters, you are operating at a low speed and creating a low wake throughout the city. So it does appear that we've eliminated a lot of it, but it's just because we've expanded it to include all of those plus the water surrounding them.
Mr. Mayor, if I may also, I want to make sure that you're aware there are some comments that our city attorney has made, adding in some whereas clauses. They're not pertinent to what we have here in the record for now, and we'll be including those in the second reading when that's held.
Okay, so how should I proceed from here then, Bob?
Okay, discussion and then a motion to approve the ordinance.
And did you have public comment as well that you needed to include?
Yeah, Kurt, can you read the public comments into the record, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. For the record, again, Kurt Pricer, Public Information Officer, City of Madeira Beach. We have 4 public comments on this issue. The first from Jerry Bridges, 557 Johns Pass Avenue. I'm contacting you due to my concern for the speed of boats behind the homes located on the east side of Johns Pass Avenue. This area is between our homes and the Intracoastal Waterway Channel heading out to the Gulf. The boats continually fly through, sometimes only a few feet off our docks, making it impossible to swim, kayak, or other slow activity without being scared of being run over. Even getting a boat or jet ski off your lift is dangerous activity. I actually had my rod and reel taken out of my hand by a boat the other day that came through and did not see me fishing. For safety concerns, and before someone gets seriously injured, we really need to consider making this area a no-wake zone from land all the way to the Intracoastal Channel. It would be little or no inconvenience at all, since the channel is so close and could prevent someone from getting seriously injured or killed. Please do what you can for us to make this happen. The second comment is from Chuck and Patty Sprang. We wanted to write you to express our deep concerns with the speeding of watercraft along the homes on Johns Pass Avenue. The factors contributing to the traffic are noted. Population, the growth of people moving to Florida and Pinellas County over the last several years has been significant. Vacations, a strong economy has contributed to increase in vacation travelers. Boat ownership has increased in years. Boat sizes and horsepower. Engines have increased dramatically with horsepower of 400 to over 600 horsepower. The outcome of the factors noted above have created increased traffic speeds achieved in short distances and overall speeds along with wake size. The first concern is the safety factor due to the speeds, close proximity to docks and lifts. Departing or entering kayaks, swimmers, or watercraft from our properties has become dangerous. The boats are generally moving fast, and it is not uncommon to come close to docks, especially when boat traffic is traveling in both directions. Additionally, passing from the north end of Johns Pass at high speeds creates opportunities for collisions with other craft coming around the corner. The sight lines are significantly improved with boaters' use of a navigation channel. The second concern is the wake damages to docks, seawalls, and watercraft from speeding boats operating outside of the navigation channel. The third concern is the danger to pets and water life. We have pets that sometimes swim in the ocean, but most frequently it's dolphins, manatees, and other water life. While an argument was raised that it would take increased time to get to Johns Pass, this is true. The fact that the navigation channel is no more than 100 yards further would take less than 2 minutes without the safety risk and property damage to the seawalls. We strongly recommend the adoption of the resolution requesting FWC to reduce the speed limits on the east side of Johns Pass Avenue near the Intracoastal Waterway. The third comment is from Mr. Paul Allen, 518 Lillian Drive. I am in favor of Ordinance 2020-05. I witnessed people on paddle boards being knocked off their boards due to boats speeding down the canal. A family teaching their children to paddleboard wiped out. The people on the boat turned around and laughed. The last comment is from Christy Giuliano, 840 Bay Point Drive. We are in a section of waterway that is currently in the resume safe speed zone. However, the boats that come past our house on their way through toward the bridge are always at full pace. This causes much damage to our docks and seawalls. Please address this issue. That concludes the public comments.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just a procedural point. If you can allow the clerk to read the actual heading on the ordinance, that needs to go into the record.
Ordinance 2020-05, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Pinellas County, Florida, amending Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Waterways, Article 2, Boats, Division 1, generally, Section 78-38, slow speed minimum wake and idle speed number wake zones and informational markers, establishing a slow speed minimum wake zones to include all waters of the City of Madeira Beach unless designated as no wake zones in Section 78-38B, and except those waters in the Johns Pass Channel or in the channel of the intracoastal waterway, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an immediate effective date.
Excuse me, John. I had something to say. Okay, I wanted to make a comment regarding this. I live on the water, and there's a lot of boats that go up and down our canal. And there are some that are not that small. They're a little bit bigger. And even though they're a little bit bigger, they're moving, even though they're still going at the right speed. It's just the fact that they're so big that they cause a lot of wake in the water. And that was my concern too, thinking that, you know, it's hard on the city area behind your house there when a boat goes by, and they just seem like they're speeding, and they're not. The smaller boats that are going at the correct speed and they're not moving, but it's just the fact that the slow speed wake or the idle speed wake, all of that kind of confuses me as to what exactly it is, because like I said, some boats can be doing that and they're still kicking up the waves.
Well, as a boater, I know sometimes you have to go even slower so you're not throwing up a wake. So that's the boater's responsibility to slow down more so that they don't throw up wakes. And I agree with all the comments that were made. I do think this is something that needs to be passed. In fact, if it were me, and I thought this was the case at one time, that Madeira Beach was a no-wake zone. And the only places you could run at normal operating speed was the intercoastal and the channel going out to Johns Pass. And I understand boating traffic has to move along the intercoastal, but in all these canals, they need to be minimum wake for the very reasons all these folks have spoken of. On top of that, there are many, many manatee. The manatee population has grown. My canal has manatees in constantly. There are some springs off 140th Avenue where the manatees come to all year round for the fresh water and the seagrass that's going on. And yet people disregard no wake. If your bow's up in the air and you're throwing up a wake, then you're not no wake. So not only do we need to pass this, but we need to get all these canals to where they are no wake, and we need to get the Sheriff's Department out there enforcing it. And what we had at one time also was that the city had no wake signs, and residents could purchase those signs for cost and post them on their docks with the statement of what ordinance it is that the boaters are breaking. So it's going to be hard for the city to go around and put up pilings and put up signs, but I bought a couple of those signs myself, and I'd like to see us offer that to the residents of Madeira Beach, but I'd like some other input on this.
Well, the way the ordinance is written now, all of Madeira Beach waterways are, I'm just going to call it minimum wake, right? I'm not going to talk about slow speed. Even slow speed, minimum wake. It's kind of a phrase used in the law. And it's a sailboat going 30 miles an hour could be a minimum wake, right? And then some of these fishing boats that go by, if they're going 10 miles an hour, they're throwing a big wake. So there's no miles per hour involved at all. It's just minimum wake or no wake. My understanding is it's not really easy to get a no wake designation. And that's why we all have the whole minimum wake thing. Right now, we have two that I'm aware of, according to this ordinance. There's a no wake zone in front of the bridge on Tom Stewart Causeway, and then there's a lagoon right behind John's Pass that's a no wake, and that's it, according to the statute we have now. I don't know where the manatee areas are, but certainly we can petition the county. They're the ones that give out these manatee designations, and we can get more, like that area of the springs off 140th. I know exactly what you're talking about. So I would totally agree with making all of Madeira Beach a minimum wake, especially if the FWC says that's the way to handle it, because they're the ones that are going to have to approve it. This is just one step in a longer process from what I read in the law. And once we can get the FWC to approve that, then we could start putting up signs. Of course, to put up a sign, we need to get permits, and to drive a piling into any area of Boca Ciega Bay is, again, a lot of steps. So I guess we could all put up minimum wake signs on our docks and hope that people adhere to it. The one time I've had to, I called the sheriff's office on some people that were water skiing behind my house for hours and hours and hours, and we're trying to tell them to stop it, slow down, and these kids are flinging around on a tube and barely missing our docks. And so finally, I called the sheriff and said, look, there's a guy back here in a minimum wake zone, and they're water skiing, and kids are flying off of tubes, and I'm afraid someone's going to get hurt. They came right out and ticketed the guy. And we're all standing on our docks chuckling, about it, because he wouldn't listen to us or our air horns. So I think signage is important, and then getting people pulled over, I guess, or enforcement. That's going to be our challenge. And I think this is a really good first step. If we can make everything minimum wake right now, and then as pockets come up that need to be no wake, we can address that. And I understand safety and swimming areas can be designated as no wake without too many hoops to go through. And certainly manatee areas, swimming areas are a safety issue. There's a whole list in the Florida statutes what you can do for minimum wake. And we're just going to have to go through the process. But I say we take this first step. I'm all for it.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. This is way outside my expertise, so I'm going to defer to you guys. But I have been getting a lot of calls on it, believe it or not. And the one thing that I asked you guys, and I think Commissioner Price just hit on that, and I think you did as well, Mr. Mayor, is this comprehensive? Is what we're proposing enough? And I get, I didn't know about the FCC stuff or anything like that. I thought we were allowed to say, okay, within our, like, for example, back where you guys live on the fingers of Crystal Island, do we control that wake, or does that FCC?
I don't know the true answer to that, Doug. Ralph, do you have any input on that? Are our waterways controlled by us or FWC for no way?
I sent the statutes around quite a few times, all the way back to September of last year. Many of you were not on the commission. The city can establish a slow speed minimum wake zone if it's an area that's subject to unsafe levels of vessel traffic congestion, subject to hazardous water levels or currents, or containing other navigable hazards, or an area that accident reports, uniform boating citations, vessel traffic studies, or other creditable data demonstrate to present a significant risk of collision or significant threat of boating safety. So the whereas clauses that I proposed to city manager that we add in would make findings of fact that we have all those conditions in this area.
FWC final, we're going to speak.
Ahead and give us the approval, then we can put the signs up. We do a permit for the signs wherever we need to place them, and we give a GPS rating or reading on it, and then go ahead and proceed with it.
Cool. Well, I guess, yeah, then I don't see what's wrong. If this is the first reading, I don't think we should kick the can down the road anymore. I'd say we approve this one, and if we want to make changes to it, we can make it during some reading when we find out more about it. I just think we've got to push this forward. I don't think this can sit and wait.
Yeah, I agree. Any more discussion? Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 2020-05 regarding the minimum wake and speed for Madeira Beach waterways.
You call the roll.
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges, Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Douther,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes.
Staff report. Staff report.
We have none. So, Mr. Mayor, we have no staff report.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have a report? City attorney?
Nope.
City manager?
Just tomorrow, we'll be starting at noon for the goal setting. Would you like the setup to be similar to what we have here so we can keep the social distancing, or do you want to set up, we can set up tables? It's up to the commission. You like this? Okay. And
Give us another day's practice. City Clerk, do you have anything?
I got another idea.
I gave you a copy of the Board of Commissioners handbook that was adopted last year in 2019. And if you want to, you can go through that some tomorrow too as well to get started on it.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I think that's a really good place for us to get started with, and because we have to get that approved anyway at some point. So we can run through this, and I don't think we're going to get all the world's problems solved tomorrow. I think it's going to have to be a series of meetings to be able to accomplish or to put an effective plan together. But I think this is a really, really good jump off point to go through this. Let's make the changes we want to make on that, and then put some type of agenda together for what we want to accomplish, and then we can do that in a series of meetings after that.
So tomorrow will be that 90-day meeting that we have to have within, 90 days of being elected, where we set forth the protocols of our future meetings, right? That was my understanding. So. And I can't hear anybody. Everyone's muted. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, now there is some leeway with some of these deadline dates that we get from the governor's order, because that kind of can supersede, but hopefully we'll be out of this crisis somewhere in the near future.
Unmute the microphones, people.
Everybody's muted again.
Can you hear me?
I can right now, but I could not hear Commissioner Hodges.
Okay.
Oh, now I can. Okay.
What it is that someone had asked about the employees here at the city, and they said a lot of them have been let off from work. And they want to know, are they getting paid for their time?
Yes.
And do they have insurance benefits?
They have insurance benefits, full benefits, and they are being paid.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Anyone else? This meeting is adjourned at 7:14.
Thank you.
Thank you.